Hello, this is Grant from GrantThomas.com. Today is Friday, the 20th of January 2017, and this video review is called From Leaf to i3 because I have jumped out of a Nissan Leaf after 5 years and jumped into a BMW i3. Before that, let's take a very quick check on where we are in terms of politics and funding and grants for cars. In 5 hours' time, Donald Trump is about to become the leader of the free world. And this week, Theresa May stood up and announced that the UK will be leaving the single market. And as a direct impact of those two events, the pound is currently at a 26-year low against the US dollar, and the pound also buys you €1, which is one of its historical lows as well. So in the UK this year, there are two things that are going to happen. Prices are going to go up on everything that we buy, from fuel to food to gas and electric. And what else can we say? Inflation is going to go up, so things are going to become more expensive. For instance, a Tesla has now put its price up. I should say Tesla has put their prices up. It now costs you more to buy a Tesla than it did 3 weeks ago. And even down to your consumer goods like Apple and the very phone that this is being recorded on have gone up in price as well. So things are going to get more expensive. We are in a period of uncertain times. And the best thing you can do in periods of uncertainty, or when faced with uncertainty, is to try and reduce those odds. So apologies, by the way, of all the strange sunlight and everything. Sunny January winter day. The best thing you can do is install renewable energy and drive electric cars. So let's talk about the decision to jump out of a Nissan Leaf. So I've been driving Nissan Leafs since 2012. In fact, I first drove a Nissan Leaf, it was about February 2012. Ordered one as a company car. That was delivered in August. Look back, you've seen the videos. I then switched out of, after 3 years, the Mark 1 Japanese built Nissan Leaf into a UK Sunderland built Nissan Leaf that would be the Mark 2, which had the heat pump. Was a 24 kilowatt hour battery pack, and that was due to go back and is actually going back next week, a few weeks early, excuse me, but it was due to go back at the end of March. So I've been actively looking for another car. Now, I've always liked the BMW i3. I test drove one, you can see the video on YouTube, a couple of years ago. I had the battery electric one for 4 days. I then had the Rex range extender version for 4 days and loved it. Loved driving the car, loved how it drove, loved the flexibility with the range extender. But for us as a family, it didn't work at the time. We have 3 children between us, and the eldest two at the time were not driving. Both of those now have got licenses and their own cars. So our direct need to have a 5-seater family car has eroded a little bit. Let me give you a real example. We're off on a family holiday to Center Parcs in the coming weeks. We could go in 2 cars. We're actually taking 3. So we don't need that big 5-seater, 2-ton family wagon that we might have needed when the kids were younger, when we were doing more ferrying around, all that kind of stuff. So our needs as a family have changed, and apologies for the sunlight streaming in. You can't see a thing. Go around a roundabout. Hopefully it will settle down in a minute. So our needs have changed, and finally I can go out and get this car. Now, I would not necessarily have jumped into this car if Nissan had released the Generation 2 Leaf, but they haven't, and that's just disappointing. See my previous video. There are cars out there in the same alliance, cars like the Renault Zoe. You can now buy with a 41 kilowatt hour battery, which means you can do 170, 180 miles on a all-electric car. But Nissan have yet to put that same battery pack in the Nissan Leaf, even though they're part of the same Nissan-Renault alliance. What else can I moan about? We've also had the same shell. Essentially, the Nissan Leaf 2017 is the same body and the same feel as the 2011 Nissan Leaf, yeah. So it hasn't changed that much. So quite frankly, I'm bored of driving a Nissan Leaf. It's a fantastic car. I'm not going to have a bad word said against it. If you are driving a combustion engine car today, be that a Ford Focus, a Volkswagen Golf, a Vauxhall Astra, jump out of that and get into a Leaf. You will smile from ear to ear, the same as I've been doing for 5 years. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, your family, and the environment. Especially if you're a 2-person family. You can lease them for deals of less than £200 a month. You can buy them second hand. A first or Mark 1 you can buy for around £4,000 or £5,000. The car that I'm giving back you can buy for about £7,000 or £8,000 if you pick it up at an auction. And by the way, let's just talk about those residual values, as they're called. That's the amount of money a car goes down from when it's new. The Nissan Leaf that I'm giving back had a sticker price of £19,000 when it was bought. At the end of my 2-year PCP, I could now buy that in March for £14,200. In reality, it will sell at auction for somewhere between £7,000 and £8,000. That just gives you an idea on how much the value goes down on these vehicles. Now, the BMW i3 Rex, which is what I'm driving, I have bought this, and this is the first car that I have owned since I had a Volkswagen EOS, and I guess that reflects my level of confidence in the car, the technology, and the upgradability of this car. I bought this privately from a guy in the UK, not far from me actually, a lovely guy called Mike. He basically commuted from Winchester down to Havant. Havant's 5 miles from where I live on a daily basis. He was selling this car because he's gone and bought a Tesla Model S before the price rise, very nice too, and essentially I bought this as a private buyer. It does come with all transferable warranties, so the vehicle itself has a 3-year BMW warranty on it. The drivetrain has the 8-year battery and drivetrain warranty on it, and the car itself, Mike had bought the 5-year servicing pack, so I don't have to pay for any servicing until March 2020. So I had a level of reassurance going into this. I also like the whole ethos, the way the BMW built this car. The carbon fibre, the entire shell is made of carbon fibre, built in a factory powered by hydroelectric. The car is assembled in Leipzig in Germany in a factory powered by wind turbines. And not only that, I could actually upgrade the battery pack underneath this car. So let's just talk about this particular model. This is a 2015 BMW i3 range extender. It's got 24,000 miles on the clock, and I paid somewhere between £17,000 and £18,000. Let me put that. Just have a look at Glasses Guide. I paid the Glasses Guide price for this vehicle, which I thought was fair. It has got quite a few extras on it. It has got the professional satellite navigation. It has got the turbine 19-inch wheels on it. But as with BMW, everything costs extra. And I want to make sure that when I compare the Leaf to the i3, that we do a fair apple-to-apples comparison. The Nissan Leaf, like I said, was worth £19,000. I've got the receipt. What Mike paid for this car is somewhere around £28,500. So, of course, comparing two cars from the same year, which had a start price of £9,000, means that you get much more inside a BMW i3. It goes a lot quicker than the Nissan Leaf. This thing does 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. It is considerably faster. The whole steering is much tighter. It drives like a traditional BMW. It has performance of a hot hatch. It'll easily have the performance that 0 to 60 time, for instance, is that's an equivalent of something like a Ford Fiesta or a Ford Focus ST. Sorry about this sunshine, it's all a bit funky. Oh, of course, the road ahead is closed as I go between the West Sussex and Hampshire countryside here. So I cannot rubbish the Leaf, and I really, really like the Leaf. You would do well to go and buy one of those if you're in a position to either change it one or let's assume you're a 2-car family. If you're changing one of those, go and seek out a Leaf. There are some great deals on there at the moment. Some extra things I like about this car as well. I really like the battery conditioning. So if you set a departure time on this particular car, so if you're saying you're leaving to work at the same time every morning, and you set the departure time to be, let's say, I'm going to work out where I am. Oh, I know where I am. Let's say you leave to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. Every morning, set the departure time to be 7 o'clock. And it will not only heat the entire cabin, defrost the car if it's icy outside, but it will, if it's a cold morning, warm up the battery pack. This has heat management around the battery pack, and that means that the car will go that much further when it has a warm battery pack. Conversely, if it's summer and you've been driving a lot or you've been rapid charging it, then this car, the battery pack might get too hot, so it'll actually start cooling it down as well. So this has battery management around the heat management around the battery pack. So we've got better performance, we've got a faster 0 to 60 time, and we've got better management of the fuel source. We're going down a really steep hill now, so I'm trying to pay attention because it's got a sharp turn at the bottom. How are we doing? 9 minutes. So for me, after 5 years of driving the Leaf, I didn't want to jump in a third Leaf of exactly the same body shell. And UK, as this is being recorded on the 20th of January, we only have a choice of a 30 kilowatt hour battery pack in the same car that I've been driving for the past 5 years. I can tell you everything you need to know about the Leaf. Don't meet me in a pub, I'll bore you senseless. But I've driven it, I know what it can do, I know how it handles, I know how it charges, I know how it brakes, I know how it regens. You know, you get the use, after 5 years of driving the same car, you get used to it. And I was just ready for a change. So that was another reason driving my decision-making process. And I'm in a really narrow country lane here, and there are cars coming the other way. And I'm going to let those two go past. So I was ready for a changing car, our family profile meant that we could choose a 4-seater car instead of a 5, and I was able to manage to secure privately a car at a fair price that had a level of certainty around the future servicing and warranty on the vehicle. Now, let me just say one comment to that future servicing and warranty. In the 5 years I drove those two Nissan Leaf, it didn't once have to go in and have a battery or a recall or anything. In fact, it only went in for a service. And on the Mark 1, there was one discoloration in the paint, so I had to have a paint respray or touch-up. Those were the only changes or points that had to go into a garage. I jumped into this car last Thursday. I had this car 8 days, and last Wednesday actually, and I jumped into it anyway 8 days ago. Decided that it had half a tank of fuel. We're doing a long journey tomorrow. I thought I'd fill up the fuel tank. Pulled into Sainsbury's forecourt, could not open the petrol filler flap. There's a button down the A pillar of the driver's footwell. Press that and it would not open. I'm out there trying to push the fuel filler flap, it won't release. Didn't know what the heck was going on. Went around the corner, parked up and started reading on my iPhone. Let me put my hand up there and try and protect some of this sunlight that's coming through. As it transpired, there's a known bug on the BMW i3 Rex, which basically you may have a failure in the fuel sensor inside the fuel tank. I don't want to go into too much technical detail, but essentially BMW pressurised the fuel tank to make the fuel not go off, if you like. And when you refill the car, you have to press a button, the fuel tank depressurises, then it opens the flap so you can then refill the car. And that had failed. And secondly, when I bought the car, it didn't have the fast charging cable, so I bought one of those last Friday, plugged it in, and as soon as I plugged it in, the error message on the dashboard came up that said you are charging at a reduced rate to protect the electronics of this vehicle. And I'm thinking, okay, what have I bought here? Never had these kinds of problems on the Leaf. Oh, I'm so sorry about the sunlight. It's only because the diversion will be turning right in a minute. So it had 2 warranty items to go back in for, or 2 issues that I had to call upon. So this car has spent 2 of the 8 days I've had it in the BMW Snows in Southsea. Now, full kudos to Snows in Southsea. They took the car in, said, look, can we keep it overnight because the KLE unit's got to come. And let me just give you a little bit of background on the 2 pieces. I've already talked to you about the fuel filler flap, but actually, obviously, in my keenness to get the fuel filler flap open, there was a previous bug on it, the actual fuel flap itself was not perfectly aligned in the body of the car, so they replaced the hinge mechanism in the flap. I also had a concern that the tether that holds the fuel filler cap to the actual flap had perished and had broken, so they replaced that. They also replaced the one on the back for the electric charging flap as well, because that was meeting the same fate. So they did the sensor, they drained the tank, they refilled the tank, they fitted a new fuel cap and hinge, they fitted a new fuel flap, and then they did the charging. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the acronyms, but there are 2 essentially parts of the charging setup on this. One that does the first 4 kilowatts, called the CME, one which is called the KLE, which does the second half, which takes up to 7.4 in the charging, as well as handling all the CCS rapid charging on the DC side. That had failed. Again, another known issue. Thank you for the BMW i3 forum on Facebook, and there are horses in the road ahead, so I'm going to slow right down. They were able to guide me, and again, that's why Snows were able to get in the KLE, the only KLE unit in the country, had it fitted and installed by 11 in the morning. I can now report that this car is operating without any issues. The fuel filler flap is working perfectly. The KLE is charging at a full, means the car is charging at a full 7 kilowatts. But by the way, in the 5 years I had the 2 Nissan Leafs, they never had that kind of failure. So it did fill me with a little bit of concern. And whilst they were in there, they looked at what other warranty recalls needed to be done with this vehicle. They replaced the Rex engine bolts, and then there were 3 software updates. One that recalculated the range, was slightly better. One that did the KLE update, and one that apparently there's a software update so the Rex engine knew about the Rex bolts. There's a lot of techie stuff about this. So the car is not without its faults, or you need to get those faults rectified, but BMW are pretty on the ball about fixing those. It has a fairly infrequent service interval, so the Nissan Leaf had a 12-month service. This has its first service at 2 years old in a month and a half's time in March. So 14 minutes worth of waffle, hopefully giving you a bit more of the background. But to summarise, I'm bored of the Leaf. I'm disappointed that Nissan have not brought out the Generation 2 Leaf yet with the longer range. When they do so, I could be tempted back. I hope it comes with a better performance. I also, and my last comment on this car, I also like not only the way the car is built, but the fact that I could, and this is a 60 amp hour battery pack in this car, the i3. There is a bigger battery pack available on the 2017 model of this car that has 94 amp hours. And I could pay, I think the sum is €8,000. I could buy this, oh sorry, it's all gone all over the place. There we go. And I could pay that €8,000 price and actually upgrade this car to have the bigger battery pack. Nissan don't allow you to do that. Now, it's not worth doing on a car that's 22 months old and only going from that kind of increment. But, you know, change the mindset. Fast forward until this car is maybe 5 years old. When it's 2020, I could easily, let's assume that BMW are up to sort of 120 amp hours, a 200-mile range battery pack for this car. I could easily at that point swap the battery pack out and have a car that's able of doing 200 miles. Essentially, you've got a brand new car. Look, I'm sorry about the sun and the, oh my gosh, the bumpiness. but I hope this video has been of use to you. I will do a proper video on the car, on my driving of the car. We are doing 2 long journeys in it in the next few weeks. So I will report back how I've handled those, how I've used the Rex, how I've managed to, you know, get 150 miles out of it. One of them, I don't know if the charging is going to work. It has Tesla destination charging. So a bit of a learning curve for me as well as we go into this i3. Thank you for watching. I hope it's been of use. Keep the comments and questions coming at grantthomas.com. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at GrantAThomas, and I'll do my level best to answer your questions. Thanks again, and bye for now.